Joining me now, former Trump campaign manager and chief strategist for the pro-Trump PAC, America First Action. Corey Lewandowski is here. Hi, Corey. Welcome back.
Good afternoon, Kenny. How are you?
So let's talk about some. It's nighttime. It's the right time.
Nighttime.
We are
Boy,
live
goes fast.
and luscious.
Goes fast.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the issues that Comey raised and whether or not any of this interview could be seen as problematic for the president. What do you think?
I think what Jim Comey raised was a series of fiction. And this is a man who spent almost no time with the president or the president-elect. This is a man who is now admitted to lying under oath, having to go back and confirm or reconfirm or restate his testimony to Congress. This is a man who is now admitted under oath that he gave out information to an individual so it would make it into the media, and specifically a former law professor of his. These are all violations, and there has been no prosecution of Jim Comey. And Jim Comey and his best friend, Andrew McCabe, who the inspector general said lied 3 times under oath, their worst days are ahead of them. If there is any justice in the United States, these people will be brought to justice.
No, it's really interesting because Comey sort of positioned himself as the arbiter of justice, the person who is morally superior, not only to this president, but also to President Obama and former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Although when he had the opportunity, and he certainly did have the opportunity, as the director of the FBI, he never really spoke truth to power. He never took these people on, and, you know, what he lays out is these great moral failings.
Kennedy, he has a messiah complex like the world has never seen. He is the final decision maker in his own mind of what is right and what is wrong. He has now admitted that he allowed the public opinion polls to determine whether or not he opened an investigation into Hillary Clinton because he wanted to make sure she didn't have a, quote, illegitimate presidency. I thought he was a man of law and order, a man who should have been respected for his position of what he's been able to accomplish, and a man who allowed the facts to dictate if someone's going to be prosecuted. We now know, because of his own words, that isn't the case. This is a man with no integrity, a man who's decided that he will take the law into his own hands, and a man who needs to be held accountable for it, and someone who, candidly, is going to get very rich off of a book which is very salacious and has no truth to it.
Yeah, and maybe that's the end game for him. It's hard to figure out because when he's talking about the presidents that he has served and the administrations that he has seen, and how this president happens to be a cautionary tale, it's almost like he's positioning himself to run for office. But if you look at his unfavorability polls, 32% of people who are polled, they view James Comey unfavorably. Only 30% have a favorable view of him. Do you think, in this interview that he did, which, you know, I've said on this show and on Outnumbered and on Twitter, I thought it was very boring. I expected much more. They were saying that we were going to hear all sorts of new revelations and bombshells about the president. But, you know, what is the end game, and could someone like James Comey run for president?
Well, look, Jim Comey taped for 5 hours with George Stephanopoulos, as you know, and one of the questions was, did you tell then-President-elect Trump that the dossier was paid for by your political opponents, this dossier that you thought was so important to bring to the president's attention? And he said, well, it wasn't really my decision to do that. Of course it was your decision.
But everything else was his decision. I agree with you. I took exception with that remark, rather, because I felt like that was his decision. And when it was time for him to step up, he didn't take that opportunity.
Well, that's exactly right. Every time there's an opportunity for Jim Comey to step up, he steps aside. It's same is true with his former best friend, Andrew McCabe. Same thing. You know, it's amazing. The day that Jim Comey was fired from the FBI is the same day that the inspector general has said that Andrew McCabe lied 3 times under oath. Why have they not been prosecuted either for perjury under Congress or lying to the FBI, both of which I think are prosecutable offenses, and they should be? Look, if Jim Comey is ever going to run for office, in any state, at any time, anywhere, I will volunteer my services to go and run the campaign against him. And I do this pretty well, okay? I do a pretty good job on this. So I'll volunteer my services right here, right now, and I promise you we'll win.
You have gone on the record. We'll see if the opposition takes you up on that offer, if James Comey does, in fact, run for office. But I think he finds himself to be morally impenetrable. I think the man has been penetrated. Corey, thank you so much.